Today's episode, Josh and I cover the 70th annual All-Star Game that was announced on Tuesday the 2nd. Next. Today's episode of the Two Pointers podcast is sponsored by Crack Technician Services. This awesome up-and-coming tech repair company can be your go-to for any tech repair service. From screen repair to battery replacement to speakers and so much more, they can fix it all. It is run by my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Hardy. You can inquire about a service by sending a message on Instagram at cracked_technician_services or by way of email, crackedtechnicianservices@gmail.com. Again, that's cracked_technician services on Instagram and crackedtechnicianservices@gmail.com. Two Pointers podcast listeners get an exclusive discount code. You can use TPP at checkout for 10% off your first service. Now on to today's episode.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Two Pointers podcast. So, right after we record last week's episode, the next day, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver kind of announces, or the news breaks, that the NBA actually is going to do an All-Star game this year. We didn't think there'd be an All-Star game. We thought there would just be a break in between first and second half of the season, but now the word is getting out that there will be the 70th annual All-Star game, without the rest of the All-Star weekend festivities. Of course, that's caused a lot of controversy in the past week, as a lot of the NBA's premier stars, such as LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, have not been in favor of the fact that there's going to be an NBA All-Star game, despite the NBA Players Association signing off. Trevor, what are your thoughts on the announcement and everything going on with the All-Star game?
Quite frankly, this is probably going to be the most rash I think I've ever been since we started this, but I think it's heinous. I think it's just downright heinous. We've discussed multiple times. We dedicated 2 sole segments to health and safety protocols. And how is this any more productive? I truly don't understand where, now I get it, money talks. We can talk about that for a little bit in just a second here, but these players were expecting a 5-day break to help continue this safely. Obviously, don't get me wrong, there's only going to be 12 guys a team, right? So only 24 players affected in the long run, but it's 24 guys that are probably going to be deep in the playoffs. A lot of all-stars are typically guys that play into the playoffs, at least stars on those teams. They're expecting this 5-day break as a reset. It's obviously part of the reason, like you mentioned on top there, that LeBron was not very happy. Giannis wasn't very happy. Even a guy who's, surprisingly this year, who in the running for most improved player and could be an all-star, De'Aaron Fox, was very unhappy about it as well. Most people listening to this probably didn't even know that. But I told myself before we recorded, I'm like, don't be loud, don't be loud, don't be loud. But I just can't come to any conclusion why this makes any sense. In a city that's open, LeBron said that very clearly. He has, in quote, zero energy, zero interest, and it feels like a slap in the face. It truly does feel like a slap in the face.
Yeah, my thing, I understand your comment on that they could make money off of it, but how much more revenue could they conceivably make? Because they're not going to be able, it's not like they're going to be able to sell a lot of tickets to this. We're still talking about an indoor event. The NBA hasn't been having fans in attendance for the most part, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if that's been a league-wide thing. I know it has been in North Carolina. No fans have been in attendance at the games. So outside of the TV revenue for one night for an all-star game, which sometimes struggles anyway because fans see it only as an exhibition, what's the point? You're not getting that revenue into the city. You're not really getting that revenue through ticket sales. It's just going to be TV and sponsorship for one game, and you're upsetting your players.
Look, I'm not going to be someone that sits here and is like, oh yeah, this is LeBron's decision to get this whole thing canceled. Like, his opinion is so strong that this has time to build up steam between now and March 5th. Like, I don't think they truly realize, like, this is a player-driven league. We've said this many times. I'm not going to repeat myself, but don't get me wrong. I am a guy, my second point here, I am a guy that truly loves the All-Star game. Love the game. love it or hate it. Love the game. Love the World versus USA, young guys game. Love the 3-point contest, dunk contest, all of it. Even shooting stars challenge stuff. I love it. It's great. But what I don't like is that you're putting these players' safety in jeopardy. You're putting, like you mentioned, like the ticket sales. Like, I'm going to give you an angle that I really liked. I heard the other day. Kevin O'Connor mentioned how, like, this is going to be nice for Atlanta as a city like that who is open. There's going to be guys that are going to get another paycheck because they're going to be able to work this game. They're going to be able to, run. Security may be able to be there. People in the parking lot, whatever, right? It may not be heavily with fans, but people will be there, right? There will be people getting a paycheck because they're working this game. It's really neat for that city. New arena, I get it, right? Or redone arena. But this is truly like, these guys already see it as an exhibition game, and it literally took a historical, in the sense of the game, altering change to make it exciting. So why do we think that a random, stupid decision like this is going to be like, awesome, here's $10 million that you're going to get from this TBS deal or whatever, TNT, whoever the heck runs this game? I'm not happy. I'm almost nauseated at the thought that, like, this is really truly like something that they sat down and it, like, players didn't see it coming. This isn't like some, to my knowledge, the Players Association was barely involved in this decision. But we mentioned before, like, they're going to have to find ways to make money. I get it. We had a really bad year last year, but I don't like this. To me, is just another domino falling that you're seeing where money is being lost so heavily, where I think we see expansion. You and I talked about it already. I think we see expansion so much sooner as these dominoes are starting to fall and we start to get desperate. I just think that's going to be the eventual last domino to fall, where I think this big cash cow is going to have to happen. Not saying the NBA is going to bankrupt, but I don't like where this is headed. And this decision for me was, I think, deeper. In my opinion, this was deeper than just, let's get a couple $1,000,000 here on the side in Atlanta in March.
See, for me, although we obviously don't know what the exact finances are like for the NBA, I can't think that they're actually struggling to a point where holding we're not even talking about holding a full All-Star weekend and getting the whole weekend of sponsorship, TV revenue, festivities they normally have. It's just one game. One game that's, I mean, it's exciting, don't get me wrong, for the time being, but, like, you've got all of your star players saying they don't want to play in it. Why are they having a game that their players don't want to play in, when one of the NBA's other problems is players being sad or being rested because of being overplayed? And now we're going to force those star players to go play in an exhibition game during what was supposed to be their planned 5-day break, which is probably going to cause more problems with them being rested when we get back to the actual competitive basketball games a week or so later. The decision just doesn't make a lot of sense from the outside, and I think it's something that they need to reconsider. Although it seems like at this point we're probably past that, and that we're gonna have the All-Star game.
To your point, this competition aspect of this, like, it truly is, like, it's never mattered before as much, like, in terms of, like, when these guys get this break or when this really matters. It's such a short season already. I mentioned, like, when we talked about the Mavericks and the Heat and teams like that were struggling, which, by the way, total side note, hit the panic button. We can talk about Dallas next week even more. We'll have another week, but I'm hitting the panic button. I wish I had a panic button sound effect. I may edit one in. Panic, panic, panic. Like, this Dallas team, Porzingis is not the same player, right? All that stuff. But yeah, this is such a crucial time for these guys to get healthy. Like, I had a couple written down, for guys that are going to be playing this All-Star game that, or could be, right? I feel like there's going to be a lot of injuries, air quotes. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that just either, quite frankly, or they're going to push as much as they can up until the 5th. But to your point as well, I also wanted to mention, like, I was trying to find this Woj tweet fast enough, but when they first announced it, did they not say, it was either Woj or Shams, one of the two guys. I thought I saw, weekend entirely. I thought I saw even 3-point contest and all that stuff, which to me made even less sense. That's more people you're putting out there and more people that may come in contact in a city like Atlanta that's open. The more people touching things and doing things all close together on the court. Did they change their mind? Is this just going to be the game on Sunday?
I don't have the exact reports in front of me, but I had not heard a single thing about having the other All-Star festivities. I had heard one day just the All-Star game. I've heard no word about dunk contests, 3-point shootouts, which, to be fair, those are two competitions that it's hard to get guys to compete in a normal year, especially the dunk contest, let alone trying to convince guys who normally in the dunk contest, players who don't make the All-Star game, to convince them to come down in a game that wasn't planned to begin with. As far as I know, it's just supposed to be the All-Star game because that's the marquee attraction.
Marquee attraction in the sense that, like, it's the main game, of course, but marquee attraction in the exact opposite of the sense that this, like I said, they had to have a major rule change. We'll discuss the rule change in a few moments here. Also, quick note while I'm looking this up, Shams tweeted 4 days ago, the All-Star fan voting is up 70% compared to last year in a game that, quite frankly, was decided overnight. I'm looking for the original announcement where it was said that I've agreed. Here it is. Here it is, Shams. NBA and NBA PA. So the PA was involved. Don't know how heavily. Have agreed to host the All-Star game on March 7th in Atlanta, sources tell The Athletic, in the stadium. Sides are finalizing details on the plan as soon as Thursday. And Thursday, I did not see anything. So nothing changed drastically. Yeah, I maybe I saw that wrong, but yeah, according to Woj teams finalized agreement, NBA PA. Yeah. So nothing major with the actual game itself outside of the fact that they are playing. They're going to continue to test daily during the All-Star break, and no international travel will be allowed per a memo. So, I mean, look, we get it. They're going to do their best job they can to prevent this. I truly think it's heinous.
Well, after covering what we thought of the announcement, since it does seem like we are going to be getting an All-Star game, a couple days after the announcement, we got the first fan vote results, and some things were expected in the first fan vote results of the first 2 days, and some things were very unexpected. Trevor, you want to go through what the first fan vote results look like?
This came out on the 4th. Of course, Josh and I record on Mondays. So, unfortunately, the voting is going to be this gap right here where, the 4th hits the 8th now, the 11th, you'll see a new result. So, unless some drastic thing changes where there's some funny guys that get bumped up in the fan voting, I think these stay flush in the sense that I don't foresee a huge jump in any of these guys drastically. But this is as of the 4th when the NBA tweeted these. So the Western Conference we'll start with, because that's what I got at the top here. I'm going to read just the top. I'll read a few. So got LeBron, you got Jokic, Leonard, Davis, and George rounding out the top 5.
The front court.
You got Zion, the front court. Yeah, sorry, let me clarify. The front court. You've got Zion, Andrew Wiggins. We'll get to that in a moment. Christian Wood, Brandon Ingram, and Carmelo Anthony. Remembering that this is a fan vote. Let's address this front court at a time, because front court guard, I want to do this one section at a time because I truly think I'm overwhelmed already just in the front court. First thoughts on the front court, Josh?
I think that relatively you'll see those 3 starters remain the same with LeBron, Nikola, and Kawhi Leonard. Anthony Davis was close on the 4th, within 100,000 votes of Kawhi Leonard, so it could be Anthony Davis. But outside of those 4, no one else is close. I was a little bit surprised that LeBron James came in 2nd overall for all players in All-Star voting and not 1st overall, because usually you would expect LeBron James to be the most selected player. We'll get into when we get into the Eastern Conference who the most selected player was. Yeah, it becomes interesting after that. Zion Williamson's pretty high up there because he's a big name. Christian Wood, not a guy that I would expect to get in there. He's been having an incredible season. I think getting the top 10 there is deserved. He's not going to be a starter, but it's nice to see that people are recognizing him playing absolutely incredibly. Is Andrew Wiggins just on here because he plays for Golden State?
I was going to ask you a question, but we'll start with that. The part that about made me faint. So, no, I think he's there. Yeah, no, actually, let me clarify. I think he is. Yes, I think there's such a strong fan base, and I'm not going to use the word bandwagon, but when a team is so successful for that long and truly just built a small dynasty there where you've got a guy like Curry, it's so marketable, that team's going to be under a spotlight. Truly, I think he's up there pretty high. The fact that I think he's over Brandon Ingram is just, I think it's pure Stephen A. Smith blasphemy. But just Christian Wood, I'm not surprised he's on there. I'm surprised he's as high as he is. I say he's high on the list. He's 8, right? But it's just I think he's my front runner for most improved player. But do I think he's an all-star starter? No. Could he get in? Front court's pretty tough, I feel like. But yeah, that Andrew Wiggins point, we debated it, unfortunately, in our group chat the other day. Brandon Ingram, Andrew Wiggins, and of course the only person and to our points, to our defense here, the only person defending Andrew Wiggins was a Warriors fan. So yeah, I'm just shout out to Melo would be my last point on this list for the front court. Shout out to Melo, the real Melo. No, shout out to Melo for being on there, just out of respect. Obviously he's just been a really good veteran and a really good presence for Portland, and it's been fun to watch Melo be this next step in his career when a lot of people thought he might not have been able to do this.
Yeah, shout out to Carmelo Anthony for being a recognizable name so that fans who don't follow the NBA could select him without knowing how he's been playing this season. So moving on to how the backcourt in the Western Conference looked. Currently, the top two vote getters in the Western Conference backcourt are Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic, who I fully expect to be the two players who are voted to be the Western Conference backcourt starters. I think that will remain the same. They're the only backcourt players with over 1 million votes. Then it follows with Damian Lillard, who, in my opinion, probably should be the starter in the Western Conference backcourt besides Steph Curry. Followed by Ja Morant. By the way, significant drop-off after Damian Lillard in votes. Like it's Curry, Doncic, Lillard, massive drop. Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Chris Paul. So two players from Phoenix. Great job, Phoenix. CJ McCollum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and in 10th, Klay Thompson.
How long do you want me to let that sit there?
We always have to start with Klay Thompson. So again, the All-Star voting reminded us very quickly after starting the game to realize this is a fan vote. And that means that all intents and purposes is a popularity contest, and you don't actually have to be playing to get 99,094 votes over 2 days.
He is not the only person on there that I think this backcourt out of the four total.
The other 9 have played this season. That's just being my point.
A few of them haven't played full amounts of games this season. That's the even crazier thing. I'll get to that. So you to your point, Steph Curry, 2.1 million, Luka, 1.3 million, Dame, just shy of 1 million by 2000. And then Ja has almost 700,000 votes, 600,000 vote drop off. You're correct on that. And Ja, by the way, came back pretty quickly. Really young star, his rookie cards, and the card market really boosted. I think that's where a lot of his fan votes come from. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but are people really truly watching Memphis Grizzlies games at 8:00 Eastern time? It's his rookie card and stuff like that that's really boosting his stock. But he's missed 4 to 6 weeks, or about 4 weeks or so. He came back pretty, like I said. And then CJ is going to be out for multiple weeks with, I don't even remember what his injury was, but he's going to be out. So it's just the fact that these guys, CJ, I think that was just solely a pick out of love. To me, I'm a ride or die my guy, Devin Booker. Yes, he's averaging less points. He's also got Chris Paul. They're also playing the best they've ever played as a team. They're going to finish in the top 6 in the West. But I just want to see Devin Booker in there. I don't care how he gets in there. I don't care if he's the starter. Obviously, he's not going to be. Don't get me wrong. People like Curry and Doncic there. But shout out Devin Booker. The Klay thing, I'm not even going to go down that path. I can't. I get it. It's a fan vote. But you might as well have voted. Who hasn't played? Who retired 2 years ago? I'm trying to think of somebody that retired 2 years ago. I'm like, just put Jason Terry in there.
Well, Vince Carter retired last
Jason
year,
Terry.
so you might as well just vote for Vince Carter.
Yeah, let Vince have one more dance. Why not? I hope he comes back healthy. I really hope we can vote him in next year as somebody who can truly play. I don't think he'll ever be a starter again. I hope he can get back to that level, but not. I can't believe I saw that.
So that was the Western Conference backcourt. Honestly, it really comes down to it'll be Curry and Doncic, and then it'll be James and Jokic, and it comes down to whether it'll be Leonard or Davis for that last spot. Probably is my guess going into the votes that are going to be revealed this Thursday.
I had a question for you. Any off the top here, or you can take a second to look up if you can think of something. But any snubs? I know this is fan vote, but like we'll say snubs when we get closer if we actually have this heinous game. But any snubs that you see in the front court or the back court? We'll get to the East, and I'll ask the same question in the East.
No, I can't say so. I feel like the West looks. I mean, I think the West looks fine. There's not a player that stands out to me like not being up there, really.
I'll give you one since the Clay debacle there. That he should have way more than Clay at 99,000. But De'Aaron Fox, yeah, the Kings are bad, but at least he's playing. He's averaging almost 24 points a game. He's looking the best he's looked so far in his career. Just as like a nice little shout out to somebody that I enjoy watching. My league pass MVP in the Western Conference so far this year. I've been watching De'Aaron Fox a lot. He's been really good. He's obviously, I think he deserves more than Clay does in this fan voting scenario.
So we'll move on to the Eastern Conference, where the top vote getter in the front court and the top overall All-Star vote getter is Kevin Durant. Deservingly so. Incredible season. Great comeback story. Durant's going to be in there. I think it'd be, at least that part would be interesting if you could see James and Durant captain opposing for two players who were compared to each other for a good bit of their careers. Then you got Antetokounmpo coming in second, league's reigning MVP, and then Joel Embiid in third. And then there's really just a huge drop-off after those three. It looks like those three will probably continue to get the votes and be the All-Star starters, which is great for Joel Embiid. I think he's had really his best season so far, and that's with some back troubles, and can't imagine how incredibly he'd be playing fully healthy. Going down the list, Jason Tatum continues to have great years and grow in popularity. He's in a huge market, obviously, and he's just going to grow into one of the NBA's leading superstars. Jimmy Butler, who's actually kind of having a down year from how he was doing last year. Then Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis from Indiana, which I think is really deserved to be up there. Julius Randle at 8 with the New York Knicks. So the New York Knicks cracking the top 10 in the front court. Gordon Hayward from the Charlotte Hornets. Yep. And then 10th, Jeremy Grant from the Detroit Pistons. So Detroit, despite the fact that they are one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, Jeremy Grant still getting some love, which he's had an incredible season as clearly the best player on Detroit's team.
I could spend 5 minutes gloating about the fact that I said that Detroit was going to be a dumpster fire before the season. And Jeremy Grant is, good stats, bad team. Shout out Jeremy Grant, that's all I'm going to say. The Pistons are terrible. They're 5-18. They're bad. Gordon Hayward, deservingly so. Obviously coming back after an injury like that. Did I think Ball deserved a little more love? Maybe. But I just don't think he's played enough for – and he plays in Charlotte, where I don't think he gets watched enough. I do think he gets watched a lot because of who he is, but we'll see.
We're talking about the front court, and he plays in the back court. So yeah,
true. And he's not even in the. Yeah, we'll get to that. He's not even in there. True. Sorry, I totally forgot we separate these. For a second there, Julius Randle's totally deserved. Love Julius, obviously former Laker. Also loved how he played in where he earned his contract in New Orleans. He's a good fit for the Knicks. I think he's going to be there for a long time. I think he's been looking for almost for this forever home. I feel like I think he may stay depending on the kind of success they build from the future here. If they can continue to hit on some other picks, hopefully, I'd like to see him stay there a long time. Just my opinion. Sabonis, we've already talked about. I made my Pacers rant the other day, or last pod, 2 pods ago, when we talked about the dark horses. I love the Pacers. They look good. Sabonis deservingly so. Bam and Jimmy both have been out multiple games with COVID stuff and injuries and having down years a little bit, but they both, they're going to get good votes. They're going to get a good amount of votes. They're both, in Miami, of course. A guy that I think should get in it, I think he should get in it, but I don't think he will. In terms of obviously the starter is Jason Tatum. He's had a career year once again. Looks really good. Celtics are the top 4 in the East. Obviously, though, I still think you're right. Durant's back. They look really good. Although, ironically, you mentioned how Durant's back, how he's the number 1 vote getter. It doesn't surprise me. The way he's played, it doesn't surprise me. I think it does surprise me in the sense that I agree with you that obviously LeBron's going to be the number 1 vote getter normally every other year. But it's just ironic that him and LeBron are going to have a chance to duel against each other in a game that they quite frankly could care less about, and a game that they might sit out of, honestly. Otherwise, though, yeah, Joel Embiid totally deserving. He's having a career year.
From the captain's point, though, one thing I would note, based on the first results, it's not out of reach that Stephen Curry could end up taking the most Western Conference votes and be the one that actually captains the team. I do think things are, as for the most vote getters, the way that they've structured the voting for who's captain is a bit biased towards front court guys, because you get a vote for selecting 3 guys in the front court and only 2 in the back. So it's a lot harder for, like, there's less slots, just frankly, to vote for a backcourt guy when you submit your voting sheet. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Really, the front court in the East, there's nothing that really sticks out to shock me all that much. I think it looks pretty good. I think that Butler and Adebayo may be a bit high, and that's really just coming off of it's an appreciation on the incredible run they had in the playoffs last year. But on to the backcourt, which is interesting, to say the least, in the Eastern Conference. Bradley Beal, the first vote getter, which goes back to incredible player on a just really struggling team this season in Washington. Kyrie Irving, second.
Stats bad team.
Yeah.
Good stats.
Kyrie Irving and James Harden come second and third. It's interesting that Irving and Harden will actually kind of be, the voting will be between the two of them to see who gets that other spot to start in the East, because I think Bradley Beal's been so incredible this year that fans will continue to vote him into the starting lineup, and he'll get some long-deserved appreciation that he hasn't had yet. Jaylen Brown, more Boston Celtics fans, up at 4th at guards. 5 is Zach LaVine in Chicago. 6, Trae Young in Atlanta. I'm surprised that Trae Young isn't higher. I'm assuming that he will be higher when the new voting comes out. Colin Sexton, breakout season, comes in 7th. I'm going to skip number 8 and come back to it, because just some things to discuss further about the way this all-star voting works. 9 is Russell Westbrook, which just there because he's Russell Westbrook. He's kind of struggled in Washington so far. 10, Ben Simmons. I don't think he's high enough. Number 8 was Derrick Rose. At the time of voting, he was a Detroit Piston. So if he's supposedly the 8th best guard in the West, but was traded for the New York Knicks backup point guard Dennis Smith Jr. earlier this weekend. Thoughts?
I can guarantee you all, and I quote, 183,899 of those votes, if you were to do a geolocation on them, were in Chicago, Illinois. Honestly, I wouldn't have started today. I'm going to start with and this is going to be so heinous of me. Again, I'm going to use that fun adjective. I cannot believe that you just said Ben Simmons should be higher. Out of our entire group, I think I'm the biggest Ben Simmons fan out of all 13 of us in that group, and I think he shouldn't even be in the top 10. It shouldn't even be close to 10. 5, nothing. No, he's had a down year. He's obviously, granted, I get he's on a good team. Joel Embiid's played really well. Joel Embiid's carried that team, but I just don't think he's anywhere close to an all-star. I want him to be clear. I want him to be an all-star every year. I want him to be an all-star for a long time. I love Ben Simmons. I was high on him even in high school. But no, him and Westbrook shouldn't even be on that list.
I don't want him to be a starter, right? But I think my point is he's definitely behind some players he should be ahead of.
Derrick Rose specifically, yeah, no, I agree with that.
Derrick Rose specifically, Russell Westbrook also this season. Zach LaVine may be just another case of good player, bad team, but that's been him every year. I don't know what makes this year different.
The Bulls look at least competent. I gave him a shout out last week when we talked about like how when Lillard's buzzer beater, the Bulls look semi-competent. I'll clarify. They look semi-competent. He truly looks like he's becoming a leader. I do feel like Donovan's got him in that a little bit more of a leader mindset. Don't think that translates to all-star votes, really, obviously. But one I am happy to see, which I hope he gets in at least. Obviously I know he won't get into a starter, but Jaylen Brown, career year, it's going to be close. I mentioned how front runner for Christian Wood was front runner for most improved player, but Jaylen Brown's up there. I know he's I get it. He's he's already averaged 20 before, and then he's close to averaging 25, 26, 27. But he's just overall as a player, he's looking way better. Bradley Beal, deservingly so. I don't have anything else to say about it. I just think Colin Sexton needs to be higher. I'd have Colin Sexton right now above Zach LaVine and Trae Young.
And I mean, I think that honestly might just come down to that there's not a lot going on that's going to bring votes in for Colin Sexton in that Cleveland market. It comes down to where my surprise was that Gordon Hayward made the top 10 front court because he's in the Charlotte market. Like we talked about Ja Morant getting in, being in Memphis, which I believe is the smallest market in the NBA, 30th. Like you said, it's probably not all Memphis Grizzlies fans voting for Ja Morant in there, but it's because he's got a lot of notoriety coming off his Rookie of the Year season.
I'll ask the same follow-up question. Any snubs, front court, back court, does make a difference? Any Eastern Conference snubs so far?
I personally wanted to see Drew Holiday in the top 10. I think he's done really well in Milwaukee. I don't understand where Drew Holiday is, and is a guy who kind of hasn't been an all-star nearly as many times as he probably should have been in his career, because he's been in the Western Conference, which has been notoriously harder to make as a guard, to make the Western Conference side of the all-star team, even though they don't play East versus West anymore. But it's been notoriously harder, and I was hoping to see Drew Holiday hopefully, because the fan vote only decides the starters, hopefully we see when the selections are made outside of it, Drew Holiday will make the bench for the Eastern Conference selections.
I'll give you a fun one. Guard in the East, Malcolm Brogdon. He's come down a little bit in terms of points per game. He's obviously leading that team, but if we're just doing fan vote, he's not going to get a fan vote by any stretch. Obviously, he may be this like absolute long shot, in the, like you mentioned, in for the reserves votes, but he's been really good for the Pacers. Still a top 5, I think, team right now as we're recording on the 8th team in the East. I think they're just outside of the top 4. He looks really good. Obviously, he's not averaging 25 anymore. He's averaging 21, 4, and 8, I want to say. But they look really good. The Pacers do. He's obviously the leader. 7 assists per game. But he looks like a true leader for that team, being, of course, a veteran presence already at 28 years old, but only playing 4 years. One more that I'd just selfishly almost a little bit, but Siakam, obviously, I think Siakam deserves – his team's been worse, and his team's been COVID-ridden, but I think Siakam might have been – I feel like I'd have him over Bam right now, or Jimmy, one of those two. I just feel like it's one of those two or Siakam, right? It's like, give me one of the two Heat players and Siakam right now.
If we're going back to the front court, someone I missed, where is Chris Middleton?
Yeah. See? That's why I like the snub question.
He's averaging 20 points per game. 6 rebounds, 5.8 assists. He's not in the front. Like he's outplaying Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is up there, halfway up the front court to the Eastern Conference. I think it's another thing with small markets. Miami, very large market for basketball. Milwaukee, not as much.
Selfishly, any other Hornets? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'd love to see LaMelo up there. Miles Bridges would be the first call for the dunk contest if they were having it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I would put him, whatever his odds were on FanDuel,
I understand the side of it. Selfishly, I'd love to see the dunk contest just because Miles would be there, and that they would have LaMelo out there after his Rising Stars game to be throwing some crazy pass for a Bridges dunk in the dunk contest. Wish I could see that. Maybe I will in the future, hopefully.
Who'd win the 3-point contest since we're on the contest?
I don't know. Probably Davis Bertans. It's always someone like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say I was going to give it to Ingles.
Yeah,
Ingles has looked really good. He's been right high. Mike Conley, surprisingly enough, has been shooting the ball lights out. Maybe kind of sort of a Western Conference snub. I don't know. Has he been playing better than Mitchell? I'm not going to debate it, but Mitchell's the star there.
Okay, so we've kind of made it through all of the rankings. We might go cursory over the February 11th rankings next week, but we won't spend time like that breaking down just if there's any big change or some weird movement.
If my jaw drops, we're talking about it. If I see it on Twitter on the 11th, and if I'm on my lunch break at work and I see these votes on the 11th, and I about pass out, we are dialing up that Monday. Ring. Let's talk about it. What the heck? Yeah, we're going to be on top of it if something crazy happens.
Yeah, everyone just remember, go vote Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball for Eastern Conference All-Star. I don't know why I'm joking. I didn't even vote for LaMelo for Eastern Conference All-Star. Uh, did vote for Gordon, but it's different. All right. So I guess it's kind of one of the things that when these all-star games for any sport really that come along, we have to talk about kind of the usefulness of it. So NBA All-Star game, I would say, like objectively is the best of the all-star weekends in like professional sports. It's the Pro Bowls, no one cares about the Pro Bowl. MLB's All-Star game, because of the nature of rules of baseball, it isn't as fun because they play all the players and they have to start the starters. So it's really the third string players in the NBA All-Star game playing by the time you get to the ninth inning. And I think the NHL does a good job, but it's just one of those things where in basketball, where when the players are the stars, an all-star game where the players are very visible just lends itself to a great competition. Not to mention that they do the dunk contest is incredibly done every year, even when they can't get big stars, and the rest of the festivities are great. But that hasn't changed the fact that they've had to make a lot of changes to the All-Star game in recent memory because it was still struggling to get fans to care because it's an exhibition game. It's an exhibition game where, admittedly, they don't try for 3.5 quarters. It's really just a trick shot competition. It's a game of horse with a lot more movement. And it's fun to watch, but the game doesn't matter. Trevor, do you think the All-Star game is how it should be, or does it need to be changed, fixed in any way? Beyond that, one thing, was I right? Did last year, did they try the ELO ending for the first time, or have they talked about trying the ELO ending?
Is that where they cut the clock off and it's first to whatever the combined score is? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. For people on the podcast to understand, the ELO ending is a rule that came up from a competition that occurs normally in the summer known as the basketball tournament. It's a $2 million prize tournament where players form teams and they compete all over the country. The idea is that when you get down to the last, I want to say 2 minutes or 4 minutes, one of those, I think it's the under 4 timeout, they'll cut the clock off and the first team to score something like 10 on top of whatever the leading team's score is. So if a team's up 82-77, they'll cut the clock off. First team to 92 wins is the idea for the ELO ending, so that the game always ends on a game-winning shot, which I think is a creative idea. Do you remember did they try that in last year's All-Star game?
100%. And it was awesome, except for the fact that there was a foul and it led to an Anthony Davis free throw for the win. So it was pretty anticlimactic in the sense that it was built up to that. I was watching it live with a couple of friends. Like, I remember, I was like, this is so exciting. Like, this is really cool. This is really cool. And Anthony Davis is fouled. He's going to the line. And if he hits his free throw, which, by the way, he missed the first one, makes the second one completely anticlimactic. Love Anthony Davis to death, but yikes, man. Like, I feel like he missed that free throw almost on purpose. That's crazy conspiracy theory. I feel like he just to build a little excitement for going to the line. I mean, good grief. They at least got to the end, though. It was neat. They didn't do the under 4 part of it. They did do the fourth quarter as a whole. They basically said, here's the combined score. I make this joke all the time when I talk about the NFL with people. I'm like, if it's 2 offensive juggernauts, which ironically enough, we record this the day after the Super Bowl, I would love to have, instead of how this awful Super Bowl was yesterday, I would love to if they just said, here's the combined score. First one to it. Good luck, right? And I think it would have been more fun. Shout out Tom Brady for his 7th Super Bowl. I was going to have to plug that somehow. But I'm going to give you an angle that I think would be hilarious, but also I think it'd be ironic. Let me clarify. I also think it'd be interesting, and I think it would open up. I think it'd make you grin. But I liked it. I liked the previous change from last year. I really do. I think it was fun. But if a game's going to mean something, it's got to mean something if you're going to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you know where I might be going with this.
I don't at the moment.
Is there a logistical way? All right. Is there a logistical way that you do the baseball angle? Winner is home field advantage. No? I'd be lying if I said, before you say anything, I'd be lying if I said I had some genius idea. I've been trying to figure out an all-star game idea for 10 years, and I have yet to come up with one. This is the only one I foresee that's already in place, that someone already came up with, that I think could be the case. Thoughts?
2 things. of why I don't think it will work. Not that I'm completely opposed to the idea. It used to get me more interested in the MLB All-Star Game that the winning league got home field advantage for the World Series. Just funny to think about now. There's two reasons it wouldn't work. One, Major League Baseball moved away from the rule, so it doesn't exist in Major League Baseball anymore because fans and teams hated it for the most part. They hated that an exhibition game in which the managers didn't play the best players the whole time determined home field advantage in the league's championship series at the end of the year. The second reason is because of the rampant changes we always see in the NBA All-Star weekend, we don't play East versus West anymore. We have a captain from the East and a captain from the West pick teams. So,
which by the way was an attempt at making it more exciting. I do agree with you in that sense. Like, it's what have they got to lose, I guess, is my point. But they've already got away from the East West, so that's your kind of wrench in there. But
I really do like the ELO ending. Because the idea, at least it won't result in teams like running the clock out down at the end of the game. They've still got to work to score on offense. I think the ELO ending is a great idea. And don't get me wrong, for the All-Star game and not for other forms of basketball. I don't want to see the ELO ending in the other forms of my competitive basketball anytime.
Come on, you don't want to see it. You don't want to see a game 7 where they're like, all right, first to 200, good luck. No?
First to 200.
It would change the landscape of the league entirely. Let me be completely clear. It would change the landscape of the league entirely. Not happening.
I do like one idea for this, though. So it's something that we've seen kind of the NBA to do sometimes with the WNBA or the G League, which is when they want to try rule changes, they test them out there. It happens a lot. And it's other things as well. The WNBA experimented with putting sponsorships as the largest logo on the jersey and the team logo being up in the corner. It's just what they've done in the past. What if for the All-Star game you experimented for rule changes? I mean, the game's an exhibition, so why not, for the sake of when you have players like Stephen Curry and Trae Young, why not throw a 4-point line out there?
I was about to ask you. My next question was, do you have
and they don't have to stay
change?
The same. It could change every year. Like the rule changes could change it because, I mean, the game doesn't matter. It's an exhibition. It's supposed to just be entertaining and fun. And for one night only to throw a 4-point line out there, see how that would make the game different.
I was literally about to ask you, so what rule change did you have in mind? No. I think
4-point is the obvious one.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, change the M1 rule. I'm totally just spitballing here. But there's
turn the shot clock to 15 seconds for that.
It already is 15 seconds in an All-Star game. That would be really fun, actually. Give them a true incentive to play that fast. Then again, though, you don't want to injure people, and I feel like it'd be just chaos. Honestly, it would be a dream come true for Steve Nash and D'Antoni and that team.
7-second offense
15 years ago. But here's a fun, interesting conversation I want to have before we close up here. Is not necessarily asking about a rule change. I feel like that's going to be covered a ton. But the skills, let's just be completely upfront and honest here with each other. The skills comp sucks. It's boring.
Dislike the skills challenge.
I don't dislike it either. I said that earlier. I don't dislike it, but I can honestly say people don't care about it. Big picture, right? We got the dunk contest. You got this exciting there. You got 3-pointers. You got the most exciting part of the current NBA. Is there something you as a fan or something that you just grand scheme in Josh's head think is an awesome idea as a skills competition that would replace this abysmal one we have now? Like, is there some passing comp? Is there something you want to see really bad? I know where you might go with it, but is there any? If not, I'm gonna tell you mine.
Well, it's like there's always the initial idea to play a game of horse, but they tried it one year and it was kind of boring because it was really slow.
And Durant wiped the floor
because it was really slow. It was, if you could do a game of horse where you could incentivize doing crazy trick shots to like that you do in the dunk contest, I think it would be really fun. I mean, I'd love to see Steph Curry go stand up 10 rows in the bleachers and fire off a shot. if we're being
How do you
honest.
market that, and how do you make it in less than 2 to 3 hours? It just doesn't happen because they're going to
You
miss.
can't make it fast. You could, if you did a version, if you did just a trick shot competition in vein of the dunk competition, allow more creativity and you just score, but they're much less likely to convert on them. It'd be.
Or just do it
difficult.
a few hours before on All-Star Saturday. Just do it at like 3 p.m. and just do like a live stream.
Edit it all down.
Like no, not even that.
No?
Like pay-per-view it. You can like buy the live stream. Okay. And then for basketball nerds like us who just want to watch them shoot trick shots for 3 hours, I would totally pay to watch that.
I probably wouldn't, to be honest. But
would you want to see? Here's the question I thought you'd get at. Would you want to see 1v1? Would you want to see one-on-ones come?
Depends on who it is.
Your all-star caliber players.
But even then, there are certain matchups that I feel like in a 1v1 is still a mismatch one way. It's not going to tell you anything one way or the other.
But we're talking about changing the excitement of the All-Star game here, regardless of the logistics. Truly, do you think it changes the logistics of the All-Star game of the excitement? I think it's the biggest basketball story for 3 weeks if they decide to announce a one-on-one tournament. Like, are you kidding me? These
I've
guys
got an idea for
this.
you to make it interesting. Have it be a third night. That would be difficult. But have it be on a night of its own. Grab, say, 16 guys, play 1v1 games, and tell them put a cash prize at the end of it. And see how hard those players play 1v1. One night tournament, 16 guys, cash prize for the winner.
Yeah. Cash is the least of their concern, but regardless of the prize,
you think they still wouldn't play hard for that cash prize? I bet they would.
Oh, they would. They would make it worth it for sure. Make it worth it for sure. But I don't know what you incentivize an NBA player who has every hopes and dreams of what they want. Like I don't know what you do there. But would you do it? Do you take it on Friday? Or do you do it on Friday where they have the young guy game, or do you do Saturday and get rid of the skills comp altogether? That's what I say. I'd say you get rid of the skills comp altogether.
I can't think of a good idea that's short enough to fit in on Saturday, and that because you don't want to get rid of
long on Friday.
You don't want to get rid of the Rising Stars game.
No,
because that's been really fun to watch in recent years.
The reason I think it's a good idea, let me be clear. The Olympics, these guys love playing each other in the Olympics. Like not obviously USA versus like other countries. They like in these practices. Some of the most like viewed NBA videos are like Olympic one-on-ones, like the guys where they record like the Olympic practices and stuff. I just and to say this for the listeners, the horse point Josh made, like if you were too young to remember this, just your homework for me. I feel like I've given a homework assignment the last 3 pods, and I think I'm going to continue to do one a podcast. Homework assignment, guys. Look up Kevin Durant versus Rondo, and I don't remember who the third player was in this video because it came down to Rondo and Durant. But just look up the horse competition from about 10 years ago. Awesome watch. There's your homework, folks.
So I just had another idea, and you talking about the Olympics made me think of it. So are you familiar with what the current setup of the Rising Stars Challenge is? Because it's not an East versus West split, and it's not a captains picking teams. If they do Team USA, so the ones at first and second year's best USA guys, and international, so Team World, every other country. What if 1 year for the All-Star game, you do USA versus Team World? Because I think I think the international side's good enough to do that now.
Yeah, we mentioned multiple times, up until LeBron being the favorite for MVP right at this moment, the top 4 of the top 5 MVP voting or odds guys right now are international players. I absolutely think that's good.
I mean, you look at it just from who the starters would be. I think you've got Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic in the front court, and then your back court, Luka Doncic, and
there you go.
No, there's someone. Give me a second. I'll find it.
There is a little drop off. I will say, if you count Kyrie as an Australian, but he's not. He plays for the United States team, so I don't think he counts there. But while you're looking that up, I would say that it comes down to the guinea pig idea you mentioned, where like you just test it out. You've got the chance to test it out.
Yep.
What you got to lose. I don't disagree with you in that sense. The USA, the Rising Stars thing, though, I do think it should just be the best. I don't like the fact that it's USA versus the young guys on that one. I just want to see the best, like a conglomerate of the best guys. Like I want to see Ja and Zion either together or against each other, right? I don't want to see I'd love to see them against each other. Obviously, they're together on that team, but it's just, I don't know. I want to see. Granted, the world's been dominating. We said that last week. The world's been dominating that game, but either way, look, the All-Star game's fun. Like you mentioned, I don't have anything else to say more outside of that, but it's fun. People love it, but they need to love it more, and they could love it more. I think it truly could be a cash cow for the NBA long term. But did you come up with that card before we go? Or is it
card?
Four guys? There's four guys.
I mean, you could.
Guard.
There's plenty of players that you could just slot in from Canada that you could probably use.
That's true. Jamal Murray. There you go. Jamal Murray. I got you. Shout out Jamal Murray.
The benefit you can use anybody that comes from Canada and use them as a other spot. So
I wouldn't put Andrew Wiggins wouldn't be on my world team. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, on that note, this has been the 2 Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Trevor.
And we will see you soon.
See you guys.